Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you updates in the Mag 7, a weekly series we've been doing now for several months, and we'll continue doing so indefinitely. I did record this video for the week of Monday, December 29th, 2025, and in fact, I am now recording it about an hour and a half into actual trade on Monday morning. This is Microsoft, of course, and, the real takeaway here is just the fact that you got a 5-year channel structure that begins at 551.27 and ends at the much more meaningful 577.16. This zone still able to contain buying on a quarterly, possibly annual basis. We first tested it in July. And then again, of course, in October. We've not yet closed even above the inside one. This is our ceiling. And in fact, overall, the big picture suggests that you should at least allow for what is now at 385.19 and rising by the end of 26 or sooner. Now, I don't expect this. It's just that with the channel dynamics, you must allow for that real possibility that you've got 550s, 570s ceiling, 380s floor, both rising at the same pace. And that having tested the ceiling, the floor can draw similar to a magnet in terms of the analogy. Now, this is the same exact chart. And it was back in November that we actually closed below this meaningful, mostly horizontal channel bottom that this week is at 490.11. That is your sellable ceiling of resistance, below which I am anticipating this mid to upper 420s. I've been saying this now for 2 months, and I've been calling it a 2 to 3 month target. So, I'm kind of exhausted with that. The question is, when might we? I could actually put a horizontal line here. The settlement price, 472.12. I know it cuts right through that 490.11, but I'm just going to put that here, 470.12, 472.12. Sorry. There we are, 472.12. I think that's your downward pivot point now. If we close below 472.12 over the next few weeks, let's say, that should set off follow-through selling. This is still an objective, though. The mid to upper 420 is still realistic between now and let's just call it with present volatility and this congestive dynamic we're in by the middle of 26 or sooner. And if we close below 472.12, I wouldn't be surprised to see this lower area within 2 to 3 months, full channel extension, and a 5/8 downside Fibonacci from that April low earlier this year. This is a zone that can contain quarterly selling pressures. I do consider it a longer-term objective below the lower 490s. If, however, we close not only back above 490.11, but also above 492.63, which is the high of the low, we have ourselves a buy signal back into the 550s, possibly 570s over the following 3 to 5 months. So right now with Microsoft, if you're a 2 to 3, 3 to 5 month investor, you might be either short or out of this market entirely unless we close above 492.63. On to Meta. Now, Meta last week did close pretty much at this descending channel top. That is 652.95. We've opened above it on Monday. It is a support for the week. It's a closed-based, settlement-based system. So on an intra-week basis, we have the actual high settlement price that was put out a month ago on the weekly chart, 673.42, and we have the low of the high of 638.61. And so if we happen to close above 673.42, it is a clear buy signal. I'll get to that in a moment. If we close below 638.61, it is a clear sell signal, wherein I would anticipate within about 2 to 3 months this 556.42 channel bottom. By that point, we're at the very end of Q1. We can bottom out here through Q2 and round up. If we were to close below 556.42, then we've got another 2 to 3 month sell signal to 439.29, where we could bottom out through all of 26 and into 27. We are above this descending channel top now, and if we close above 673.42 or even Friday above 652.95, it begins to skew to the upside. But in terms of, momentum, in terms of a protracted rally, I think that really sort of ignites with a new high settlement above 673.42. And I'm talking new high following the low that was put out in November. Upside, I would then anticipate, the 714.12 5/8 Fibonacci within 2 to 3 weeks. And then ultimately, if we close above above not only 652.95, but this high settlement price, 673.42, you can see in the yellow square. If we can close above that, we have got a clear 2 to 3 month, 3 to 5 at the most, buy signal back into the mid 780s to mid 790s, where indeed we could double top on a quarterly basis. Let's move on to Google or Alphabet. Now, it has washed out some longs, no doubt, over the last few weeks, but we have closed the gap, but we've not closed below the gap. So if we did close this week below 306.42, I would say we have a real route to the downside, wherein this church steeple rally can become symmetrical and fall in equal proportion to the downside back to this breakout resistance now supported 228.82. This is a solid floor of support that, if tested in later 26, can absorb annual selling pressures, but I don't expect it unless we close below 306.42. In fact, holding above 309.59, there is nothing to be but long Alphabet. This vertical move can reignite and we can push on to new highs within several months. 328.83 is the actual high itself that was put out back in late November, and if we can close above it, a sustained rally. No point in picking tops in Alphabet yet. If we close below 306.42, then you can exit a long position and even perhaps play the short side into the upper 220s. But this vertical move, there's no clear sellable resistance. You just either want to stay long, or if you exit, if you go short, it is on weakness, and that would be below 306.42. On to Amazon. Amazon's been bottoming out at this rising 8-month channel structure that is really between 219.52 and 227.60. 219.52 is the base. We've yet to test it. Can contain selling through the first quarter, and from here we can round up. Our next buy signal on strength is above 238.49. I'll get to that in a moment. But before I leave this chart, I just want to mention that if we were over the coming weeks to close below this 219.52 rising channel bottom, then we have a 3 to 5 month sell signal down to 177.05. Until then, Amazon's actually quite bullish through the first quarter and even into later 26. From here, we can round up back up into the 250s, 270s over the next several months. And as I say, our next buy signal on strength is a settlement above 238.49 that should, within a couple, 2-3 months, yield a return to the 255.64 channel top. And this is a wide range. You could also call it stair step. The big picture resistance is 274.75 that, if tested in the coming months, can contain an annual high. I don't expect to see 274.75 unless we were to close above 255.64. I do think, though, 255.64 can be considered kind of a 3 to 5 month target, holding above, once again, this 219.52 area. So buying 219.52, anticipating upward rotation into the 250s again within 3 to 5 months. Closing below 219.52, get short, stay short, or get out of a long position, because the upper 170s would be likely within 3 to 5 months. On to Apple. I cover Apple every single week in our paid subscription at wickedstocks.com. This is a broad brushstroke. I'm just giving you one shot, one look. In the Apple video, I go through 8 to 10 minutes of charts, near-term, mid-term, and long-term. This is all long-term. We've been testing a 5-year channel top now for the last couple of months, and now recently, a couple weeks ago, closed below this rising flag. 278.88 to 283.49 is your significant resistance for Apple. There is nowhere to go but down from here. I do have targets that I show you in the Wicked Stocks video in the 240s and in the 190s perhaps. But if we can close above 283.49 at the end of any week, then we enter a whole new phase, a longer-term upward continuation. In the video at wickedstocks.com, we map out what the targets would be near, mid, and long-term. But long-term, if we close above 283.49 at the end of this week, I think within a year or two, we could find ourselves at 383.20 or this full channel extension within a year or two. But until then, I don't see a compelling reason to be long Apple if your time horizon is through 26, because from here we can fall back to channel support that is presently in the upper 180s and climbing, not labeled here. On to Tesla. We cover Tesla, as you're probably aware, every single day on our Wicked Stocks YouTube channel. This is big picture analysis, a base of support, 422.92, that held nicely back in November, can continue to contain selling through the first quarter, and above which we still maintain a 2 to 3 month objective at 531.09. This is a 6-year channel top that is an area for you to take profits if you went long back in November, as suggested, and is also an area you could play the short short side. Even into later 26, we can tap out here and fall away. Right now, though, Monday morning, we gapped lower below last week's low. Looks weak right now. I'm going to jump to this chart and just show that, actually, did I have that chart? Bear with me. I think I even labeled that. I'm going to just show it here. That low from last week, 473.82, you can see the black bar. That is a ceiling right now, at least early in the week. There are other elements. I would just suggest you watch the daily Tesla report. It's free. You may have already watched it. There is the very real possibility now as the week continues and we were to get a little lower. I know we have a sell signal on a daily chart that is a climbing 460s channel bottom. If we were to close below that, then we're anticipating a retest of the 422.92 8-month channel bottom, which can contain selling through Q1. And from here, we can round up or continue up into the low 530s as mentioned. But once again, if we were to close below 422.92 over the next, say, 3 to 5 weeks, we've got a sell signal into the second quarter. 3 to 5 month sell signal, perhaps all the way back to 300.32. This is a, I forget exactly. Is it 50% or 5/8? I could do that right now. I'll tell you immediately. It is a 50% only retracement from the significant Jan 23 low against that more recent all-time high that we put out last week. So this low, 573.82, will grow importance as the week continues. Watch the daily Tesla video because that'll be a significant pivot point on Friday. Nvidia is showing weakness by opening Monday, right back below this channel top at 188.76. This has been and is an upward pivot point into Jan-Feb, expecting above 188.76, the 219 to 228 region as a 2 to 3 month objective. But now that we're open below it, it may actually hold weekly highs. And if we close below 188.76, even on a daily basis, it suggests a return back into the low 170s within 2 to 3 weeks, where we encounter an 8-month channel bottom able to contain selling through Q1. And from here, we can round up into the 219 to 228 region. 171.04 is a significant pivot point on a quarterly basis, above which stable to bullish through Q1, 219 to 228 in reach, below which, closing below 171.04, we have a 3 to 5 month sell signal all the way back into the mid 120s and climbing, where we find a base of long-term 2-year channel support able to contain selling through all of 26. Upside, the week is still young, and if we can close Friday above 188.76, we begin skewing again to the upside. Within 2 to 3 months, we can find ourselves at 219 to 228.94. And finally, Palantir, we've been offering this as well on a weekly basis. We bottomed out at this rising channel bottom. This is a, let's go back to April, this high. This is almost a 1-year structure at 165.21. A base of support we bottomed out at in November, can continue to do so through the first quarter. And in fact, holding above channel support, you must allow upward continuation to channel resistance at 242.75. We did close above this 186.96 a few weeks ago, and then we've collapsed back. In fact, we've, just like Tesla, we've opened below the low of this recent high, and we could continue south. I think solid bottom picking opportunities still at 165.21 and climbing. I don't expect to see that this week, but we could see it over the next couple of weeks, where we could bottom out through Q1 and round up, still continue higher into the 240s and climbing within 3 to 5 months. You could see that this is a rally of equal proportion. April to August, 3 to 5 months, 3 to 5 months. Upside, let's cover the upside here briefly. I would like to see a settlement above 210.73. This is a pretty classic, mostly horizontal channel top that, if tested, can contain buying on a monthly basis, and we can fall away. We could fill this wedge out between 165.21 and 210.73 for several months. Closing above 210.73 does clearly indicate this 242.75 rising channel top within another 2 to 3 months at the very most, where we can top out on a quarterly basis. If we were to close below 165.21 in the coming weeks, once again, I see this as a significant sell signal for Palantir. This high area at 125.41, then a likely 2 to 3 month or sooner objective, and within 3 to 5 months of closing below 165.21, full channel extension, what is now 93.91 and climbing, would be anticipated. Hit in 14 minutes. These update videos always push 15 minutes. I don't like to go past 10, but I think it's kind of impossible with with 7 individual stocks, spending about 2 minutes on each. I'm going to leave it at that for this particular Wicked Stocks update on the Mag 7. You have a great week.